Can you hear me?
I hear you, kind of.
You can hear me? Who is this?
All right.
I can hear you, yes.
All right. You Robert?
Okay. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, Johnny should be here. Seems like. He let us in.
Right? Definitely. Hey, it's been a while since I've used this. I'm trying to find a background image I can put on here.
I got no idea. I just tossed my video up there. I probably look like crap, but I don't care. I got a face for radio.
There you go. There's a way to do that. Oh, that's probably where it is. There we go. Choose virtual background. That's what I'm doing. I have found it.
Yay! Damn pesky visual things, man.
They can be for sure. Let's see here. I wonder why this one access my photos. It should. Add image.
Oh, just because of
there it goes. We're getting it. We're getting it. It's being a pesky Mac.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You got a Mac. I like those.
It's being pesky. Let's do.
You want to?
Let's do this one because that's kind of a topic we're doing. Let's see, how does that look? I don't like that. Let's do another one. Let's do.
Let's see whether this thing says we're live. I didn't see us go up.
Yeah, I'll do this one.
Oh, it looks like it's live. Hey, all right.
Well, if it's live, then that's news to me.
Live on custom streaming service. So,
well, if it's live, then we are broadcasting because I'm seeing everything here, so that's good. Then let me pull myself back up because now I have a background image, so now I look cool, like the rest of the kids. Oh, there we go. And the mic is running away. So is my computer. There we go. Now you can see me better. Let's see. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. That's what I need to know. So apparently we're going live in 5.
Sounds like Johnny's mic is half alive.
I hear, well, I'm hearing feedback, but that could be me because this is an older mic. This is from like 13, so sometimes you can hear the feedback. Let's see here because I do see Johnny, and I didn't get your name.
Oh, I'm Alan.
Oh, Alan. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Do you often co-host with Johnny?
Yeah, just kind of hang out with him sometimes.
Okay, so
help him fly the ship.
So they're saying I'm live already, and it's been 5 minutes. Okay. Well, okay, we are live. I guess.
That's what it looks like.
If we're live and I'm not picking up Johnny, I mean I'm picking you up.
Yeah. Maybe he's just muted.
Probably. Because I double checked my mic. I was like, are we good to go? And everything was working peachy king. Okay. Well, as we are live, let's see here. Let's try to jump into this because I mean I can't hear Johnny and I don't know what else to do at this point.
Well, if it is going up, you're joining us on Innervisionfm.com. That's Innervision, INNER Vision FM. And we go out on Facebook once in a while, there on Twitch and YouTube and so on and so forth. We have a good time. We're joined by Robert. How do you say your last name?
Robert Randall.
Randall.
Okay. Yes.
All right. Well, how you doing tonight, Mr. Randall?
I'm doing well. I want to thank you all for welcoming you or for welcoming me to the show, to the broadcast. It's a pleasure to be here. Tonight's topic is going to be really kind of unusual. It's music related, but it's more or less focused on a podcast. But that's not to say that I'm not a musician by any means. I guess what would be best at this point would be to kind of jump in, kind of give my background, who I am, where I've been as someone who is visually impaired. Basically, I was born with ROP, retinopathy prematurity. I was born very fragile as a premature baby, 1 pound, 7 ounces in Florida.
Welcome,
and I was
Johnny.
pretty much raised out here in Colorado Springs for most of my childhood.
Okay.
So I'm very familiar with a lot of a lot of Colorado, a lot of the music scene in Colorado, and I basically all of my life since the age of 5, since I heard Amadeus, Mozart, and I think it was I think it was Danny Elfman's score for the Tim Burton Batman movies that I just fell in love with music and just
That's awesome.
soundtracks and orchestrations and scores and that kind of thing. And gradually my tastes grew over time into jazz and more sophisticated art forms.
Awesome.
In high school, I sang in the all-state choir. I spent some time also singing with the Colorado Springs Chorale.
Okay.
And I knew eventually that I wanted to go into music full-time. And I decided to pursue that at a collegiate level and did get a bachelor's.
Now, I happened to
currently. Okay, start it now. Unmute me now. See if we go.
Johnny.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep,
yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Okay, you can hear me now?
Yes.
Yep, we hear you now.
Okay. I don't know what happened. But I'm here now. I was talking away and nobody was hearing me. I felt like I was in somewhere in outer space. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we
Thank you.
We saw you talking but we weren't hearing you either, so we didn't know what was going on. So there was kind of a two-way communication going on here.
I was playing around with my station playlist.
Okay.
And playing the music bed and stuff like that. And I lowered down the volume in one part, and that must have took over the volume on this part. So, okay.
Interesting.
Well,
Interesting.
Anyway, but I did a whole setup of the show, and nobody heard it. I don't think.
I suppose we can redo it, or
No,
do we want to?
No. Let's continue. I mean, I'll edit it when it goes out on television. So hey.
Oh, okay.
Nobody will even know this part even happened.
Okay.
So, well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, the Innervision-FM, we're having a very interesting conversation with one of our latest DJs whose show is going to be airing 5:30 this Friday on KINV, Innervision-FM. And we'd like to welcome you to the show, Randall. And you were saying something that was very interesting. I was sort of like half listening and half trying to get my audio together. Could you sort of like repeat that again, please?
You know what, Johnny? I'm actually going to start from the beginning, just because I think if I'm thinking correctly, I think there were two audio signals going at the same time. So I just want people to hear clearly what we're all saying here. So I'll start from the beginning. Basically, my background, I've been in music for as long as I can remember. And I have been visually impaired since birth. I was born with ROP, retinopathy of prematurity, in Florida, and I was raised out here in Colorado for the majority of my childhood. And so I'm very familiar with the blind community, and I'm very familiar with the music community out here as well. So basically, in terms of music, my background for as long as I can remember, since I think the age of maybe 5 or 6 years old, I was intrigued by orchestrations, soundtracks, primarily when anything by Amadeus Mozart and Danny Elfman, who wrote the Tim Burton Batman soundtracks. Just gorgeous stuff. That really kind of cued me into loving orchestrations. And later on, my father was someone who loved to bring me up in entertainment culture, a lot of the classics, the classic comedians, Charlie Chaplin, Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy, the Three Stooges, you name it. He brought me up into all of that, the stuff that was just classic film and classic music, classic jazz, Louis Armstrong, Billie Holiday, you name it. He fed it all to me. And so my taste grew into that. Even as far as going into like Pat Metheny group. So a lot of that was, a real inspiration for me. In high school, I went and I sang in choir, and I did some film production as well, and I loved it. I love the process of music and really anything in multimedia. I just enjoyed the process of having a vision, because the whole point of the website is inner vision, having the inner vision of what you hear or what you see, and allowing that to manifest itself for people to enjoy. And so that was kind of the birth in my high school career, was that whole understanding that it's possible now with technology. And this is back in the early 2000s. When I came across GarageBand, my heart sang. I was like, oh, I can make my own music. I don't need to go to Sunshine Studios or whatever.
Oh, right.
And it was just a beautiful thing for me to take that in and have that as an outlet. And so I eventually went and collegiately got a bachelor's in music. And at the same time, my impact within the blind community was exposed while in high school as well. And I realized from the very few students that I interacted with in public school, because my IQ was so high, I didn't have to go to the school for the deaf and the blind. So I went to a charter school for a number of years, and then I went to Palmer High School. And so I learned mobility and I learned Braille for much of that time. And I saw that there was a big difference in the system, in how they treated people with disabilities and handicaps, which I find those terms to be derogatory to the tongue. I tend to call it a life challenge. Everyone has a mental or a physical handicap that they are life challenged with for the rest of their life. That could be anything from Asperger's to visual impairment to not being able to walk to, diabetes. That's a life challenge. That's a struggle.
Yeah. Even debilitating pain or something like that.
Yes, correct. And so I saw the kind of shoving of the system of those who didn't fit the bill because of No Child Left Behind. They just kind of shoved me aside. And so that was kind of one of the faults of the public education system. But that doesn't mean I didn't give up on education. Most of what I delved into strongly was in my collegiate years. I was very religious. I was a new Christian, born again at Calvary Chapel, Rocky Mountain Calvary Chapel here.
Interesting.
And so while I was in college, I actually went and church hopped. I went to Mormons, Methodists, you name it, Baptists, Lutherans. Wow. I went the whole shazam. And it was really kind of a calling of the Spirit. For the first time, it was like this fire inside of me said, there's more to life than what you're learning. And I didn't fully understand it at the time. And that led me into a short trip into college journalism and writing for my school paper on different world beliefs, world religions, and understanding these things. Because, and I think deep down in the heart of why I did this was because for 10 years, I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness. And for 10 years, I was an evangelical. So I kind of wanted to solidify who I was as a believer in God, because it's one thing to be born again and experiencing, the need for Christ. So, after my friend in my junior year of high school took his life, I was at his funeral and I realized I've been raised to believe in God.
Right.
I didn't know him. I didn't know why he died for me. I didn't know, who this God of this Bible was. And so as my journey progressed, much of my collegiate experience with this religious learning on the side really took mold. And this is really what brings to center stage the show that we're broadcasting next Friday. So what happened was, ultimately, in the midst of getting my music degree and exploring these different world religions and really building a library of books, which I still have today, it came to a catalyst moment where I'm sitting in my music history class. This was first semester. And I had this, I don't even know if you can see this. I had this overly priced textbook, and I'm looking in chapter 1. Yes, I brought displays. I figured this would be a nice show and tell.
So that's okay, because it goes live. To folks that are sighted. I happen to be blind, and Johnnie as well is. But
but show it.
It's a giant textbook, and this is dated. But the point being is that I went in here, and the first chapter covers ancient Greece and Babylon. So I'll show you a
Nice.
picture of a
Nice.
certain text here in a minute.
All right.
This is a Babylonian text, which I'm actually currently, I'll show this too. So this is an ancient, this thing here at the top, that's an ancient Babylonian harp. Ooh, that's not good. Okay, that's as far as that camera will show. I don't know how well that's going. And so as I read this chapter, and I realized there's Greece and there's Babylon. But what's missing? Israel.
Israel. Absolutely.
Israel.
Wow.
So I'm sitting here and I'm reading this textbook, and there was maybe like one or two sentences that mentioned Israel had a very well documented history that they played instruments, and that was it. They kind of moved on. And I sat there, and so my professor is just blabbing on about Greek poets and playwrights who gave us music and in all of its modern forms.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there and I'm reading the syllabus and looking at this textbook, and I'm going through kind of the events as liberal arts textbooks kind of chronicleize them. And I read at the bottom of the syllabus, it says, you have a term paper that's worth 50% of your grade. Well, I already found my subject, so problem solved. So
absolutely.
So I went to the library that night, and I was like, this is going to be tough, because we're talking liberal arts library and only 2 books on music in the Bible. One was completely in German, and Google Translate was not an option at the time. So I picked up this book by John Steiner, who is an 18th century musicologist. That's a music historian. And that's basically what I had to work with at the time. And I wrote up a paper that kind of gave an evolution of biblical musical instruments and how they function, from strings to woodwinds, percussion and vocals. And that was my term paper. And I was nervous about it because here I am, I'm turning in this essentially a religious work, and it got an A+. So praise God.
Well, you stuck to the instruments. You stuck to the development of the music, as opposed to maybe the religious aspect that could have been woven into
even so. Even so, there was kind of that. I mean, I'd already put my foot in the door with my journalistic writing, because I was already stirring up turds. And to the extent to where I had a 2-page rebuttal from one of the authors of Freemasonry for Dummies the following week that I wrote my article on Freemasonry. So I'd already kind of made a reputation for myself that I was this religious nut. So that being said, I decided that I to stay to the scholarly stuff, but I mean, there was scriptural citation that really helped you kind of see from beginning to end how the instruments evolved in scripture. And it really, I think it was a good piece. So that began my journey into what is now a work in progress. It is a manuscript that it started from that undergrad paper, and it's become so much more to now where it is going to eventually be a published work. And it is now a podcast called Kadosh Shakah, which means holy worship in the Hebrew tongue.
Holy worship. Wow.
So
awesome.
The reason why I called it that is because we are creatures of worship. We are drawn to music. We're drawn to the power of God Most High. Now, for me, just based on where I'm at in my walk, that's an Eastern Hebraic walk. What most people would call Messianic or Hebrew roots.
Right. I understand.
Kind of in most Christian circles, that would be considered the black sheep of Christianity. So basically that podcast has been on Hebrew Nation Radio for a few years now, and we're getting ready to launch season 3. And that is going to be covering the cultural impacts of Babylon, Israel, and Greece, and the major scientific and cultural developments that they gave through music. The first 2 seasons were about string instruments, That was season 1, and then season 2 was about woodwinds, percussion, and vocals.
That's fascinating. You're going to be on KINV. Tell us how to find this, Johnny.
Well, okay. Well, you just go to Innervisionfm.com, click on the player, and that's the easiest way to get there. I mean, you could go to Live 365, look up the station, but you can go directly to a website, Innervisionfm.com, and then that is just hits you. So it'll be first Alfonso, because at first I was kind of scheduling a show right after Alfonso.
Mm-hmm.
And I was running into problems with that. So I said, okay, we'll make it a half an hour after Alfonso's show. And that seemed to work. And then as I was testing it on Wednesday, it was playing multiple times.
Yes, I heard that.
Yeah. So I gotta, just to make sure I'm going to go back to the Friday and make sure that it plays one time there, because when I'm working with people to schedule these things, sometimes they may click a button that I don't know that they click. So I just want to test it to make sure, and then I'll be there. So if it goes off rail, then I'll just hit it live, like on my side. So,
for sure.
So, and that's going to be this Friday?
Yeah, this Friday. So on the 17th, it'll be on at 5:30.
Okay.
So it'll be
Mountain
airing
Standard Time
officially. So if you missed it, as I was spontaneously playing at yesterday, or was it yesterday? Yeah. You'll catch it the real showing this coming Friday, and then of course again following Friday as well.
Awesome.
And then we'll because I was listening to one show you were talking about some these guys. It was a family that went to Africa and they were talking.
Yes, yeah, that was the season finale for season 2.
Oh, okay. I was jumping ahead.
Yeah, you were. So,
Okay.
I mean, if anyone wants to listen to it ahead of time, you're welcome to go onto Spotify or Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Castbox. It's not on Amazon, but anyway, we'll have, there's archives of it if you want to skip ahead and listen to it. If you like the show Friday, you're welcome to do that. But please support Innervision Radio. They need it. I know that I want to pitch in my support for sure, because I think they're doing a great thing. And it's funny because when what got me to you guys was I went to a theater production in Denver of Alice in Wonderland that was put on by a disabled theater company.
Family.
And I thought, well,
which one was it?
Family. It's PHAMALY.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
And so it kicked in my head. I was like, if our community can do that, what else is there that I can reach out and not only, pitch in what God's blessed me with, but how can I enrich others' lives in the community? And I found you guys. So praise Yah.
Yeah. Well, we got this Google grant thing that is helping us to push it out there. So sometimes I don't know how people find it that way, but or through the Google grant. So we've been trying to like push it out there even more, and trying to use this grant, because Google is not the most accessible. Google grant especially is not the most accessible thing in the world. And before the COVID, I was working with, I guess the call center had like people from India. And when I said I'm a blind person, that just didn't compute in their mind. They kept saying, click on the blue. And I kept saying, I just told you I'm visually impaired.
Yeah.
And then when I got IRA, then I didn't have to deal with that. But then COVID came and that call center hasn't been up and going since March of last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I just been running out by the seat of my pants and just trying to figure it out, and getting volunteers to help a little bit, and then keep going, because it's a great great thing if you can get it working. But
I mean, I enjoyed for a number of years some internet radio on Spreaker and MixLR. I had a news show for years called Conspiracy Bereans, and I had a number of guests and things. I enjoyed that, and it's a lot of fun. And now the podcasting world's kind of different because it's not live, but it's fun. In fact, I like the process better because it gives you more time to be creative with it, take more time with the process.
Oh yeah, and these shows I usually I edit them and then send them off to the television station, Channel 56, which is our community station down here. So I get them a chance to share that, and it's just strange how people take this TV thing seriously.
Yeah,
and some people have said, "Oh, I didn't know you were blind."
Right.
So I said, well, it's like, it's just, if you were meant to do something, you just do it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you have to pace yourself and learn, but in the long run, you're all the better for that schooling because it helps you get to where you want to go and get to that dream.
Yeah. And then also, I mean, we had made a movie back in the 90s and looked over it and I said, wow, we did a good job. But sometimes when you do something, you have to step back from it and look at what you did.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I've by no means is this podcast. I mean, it's had, you can tell that I've had to really school myself in the process because I took 3 years away from the whole thing in terms of radio to do it. And so I had to kind of teach myself. And I even took some mixing and mastering classes from a local studio here just to be sure that I knew what I was doing.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you'll definitely hear a big difference between season 1 and season 2 if you listen to it as a podcast.
Yeah, and I enjoyed like that. I mean, I've read the Old Testament before. I mean, you really got down the names of all these Hebrew names and stuff like that. And I was impressed.
I try. It helps to have an anglicized Bible because I can't read Hebrew, because if you try to read Hebrew with the vowel points, which help you phonetically pronounce it, it's very difficult because if you've had any year of Braille instruction, number of Braille instruction, some of the vowel points look like Braille.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You'll see what looks like 2 dots stacked on top of each other. And you think, well, that's a B, but in Hebrew, it's an E.
It's an E, right.
And
that's
so,
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have stopped trying to read Hebrew because of that.
See, that's my problem is I wanted to read Hebrew Braille badly. And there's just, I can't make my brain wrap itself around it. I cannot do it. Cannot.
I didn't know there was such a thing as Hebrew Braille. You just schooled me there.
Russian, and a bunch of other things I didn't know until recently. And ladies, if you just joined us, we're talking to Robert Randall, and Alan and I were interviewing him. He's one of our latest DJs on Innervision FM. You go to our station there, you can check it out. Just in case if it does what it did a few days ago and it cut us off for some reason. I don't know if it was political or whatever, but just in case that happens. I want to get that part of who we're talking to and everything like that. But and so I've been out to Moscow and I met one person, but I know they're out there because I went downtown to see the organization in Moscow, Russia, and nobody was there, and they were on some kind of retreat. And I said, man, I want to meet some of these people because my wife there, she can interpret and stuff like that. And so maybe the next time we go down there, we'll get a chance to talk to see what that community is like. Because I know they have a big call center down there, and that's how most of them make money. Who wants to make money down there? Sure. But yeah, I like to find out a little bit more about their community as well.
Wow.
In other countries, I think they're not as forward as we are because they don't have any lifts. In other countries, they don't have the lifts and buses and stuff like that. And we've come quite a ways trying to make things accessible on the surface. And then you have to talk to people to find out how accessible is it beneath the surface. And like if you have a hospital and the elevators are built, but in order to get to the into the hospital, you have to almost step way up as if you're stepping way up in a high ladder to get there. You wonder like how many blind people are doing that.
Oh,
Wow.
huh.
But yeah, the construction is very, because I guess that country, what is 800 years old?
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
sure.
So they're trying on the surface, but you really don't know how much that is translated in the mental part
Well,
of
the bottom line is this: when you have a foundation which has been built 1,000 years ago, and you want to make it accessible, but yet you don't want to really mess with the cosmetics of stuff because you want to keep stuff historical, and then you run into a few problems.
yes.
Well,
Yeah,
and,
so-
and I mean, it's kind of a culture shock too. And I'm speaking only from one experience that I had, because my classical teacher was taught in the Ukraine, and her father was the top eye surgeon in Russia. And when her parents moved out here to live with her and her daughter, and he went to go fix something at their house at a Home Depot, he looked at his daughter, my piano teacher at the time, and said, I want to go back to Russia, because he wasn't used to seeing 20 different hammers in a store. He was used to seeing the Russian hammer, the one hammer that they had. So yeah, there's definitely a culture shock.
Oh yeah.
From that. So I guess I can perceive what you're saying when you're saying beneath the surface, what exactly is going on there, and that history
Well,
versus the modification.
There is
of the
something
culture.
to be said right there for too much choice, too much
yeah.
something to choose from, as opposed to one or two or three things.
And you know, like we have the receipt, we'll take something back. That's almost not heard of. If you make a mistake, you made a mistake, you just, you just bit the bullet. That's it. The concept of taking it back, got a receipt, no question asked, doesn't really exist.
That don't fly.
Yeah.
Well, do you guys have any questions for me about the music, about any of the instruments? About
I've heard
anything?
some of your music. So you play all those instruments yourself? I mean, I've heard the music and I say, wow, this is very well produced.
Are you referring to the music that I wrote on my social music media profiles, or in the podcasts?
No, the social media. I mean, no, not necessarily, but the album that you just put out, you had an album.
Yes. I did all of that. I did the music. I did the graphic design. My distributor did the copyright, but we're gonna finalize that later.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
That was through a program called UVI, called Key Suite, which has the most realistic keyboards and harpsichords I've ever come across. There's two versions of it, and you can patch it through your GarageBand or your Logic Pro or your Soundtrap, or whatever DAW that you use. And it just sounds gorgeous, to where you can modify the pedal sounds, the little ticks of the hammers. It's
awesome.
just,
wow.
It's a beautiful thing.
Oh man. Fun.
Yeah, and I mean, I just was fascinated with, because people have let me listen to other stuff at their instrument. And it's like if the guitar's out of tune, I always notice it. But this was just on the mark. And so I just said that, because I know you teach music as well.
I do. I teach privately in the Springs. Yes.
Right. So
cool. So I happen to be in the Springs.
Yeah, Holland is right there.
Oh,
yeah, I happen to be right here. So I'll probably get your contact info from Johnnie, and I'll get in touch with you. But I've got a digital audio workstation. I'll be here for about the next month. We had to do a project real quick before I split.
Yeah, I'd enjoy that.
Might as well, because after this, I'm going up to Greeley, and I'll probably end up doing a bunch of other projects. I'll still work for Johnnie and things, but once I hit Greeley, it's gonna be. We'll see what happens.
Well, maybe you could be our direct Bronco as they're getting ready for their games.
There we go. There we go.
So
That'll work good. That'll work good.
Be the man on the spot. Why not? Well, and then also let's see something else. Like those interviews that people are going to hear later on. Did you get those directly, or did you get those from another source?
I got those from other sources. So if you're you're referring to the missionary one that you talked about, that was actually I got that directly from the missionaries that did that work.
The missionaries, okay.
And then in Africa, and that's I believe that episode is called Meditations, and that's. So the first part of that is on their missionary journey and what they're doing to tell the stories of the gospel in Africa and in parts of Muslim countries as well. And then I believe they also go to the Ukraine or Russia, some or Crimea. Excuse me, Crimea.
Crimea. Okay.
So. They're very busy missionaries, and then the other interviews on the Silver Lyre, I got that from some other interviews by the Babylonian Silver Lyre, which was taken from interviews done by Richard Dumbrill and Dr. Irving Finkel. So
some of that stuff is on the History Channel, I believe.
Some of it is. I know Dr. Finkel's been on there because he's the top Assyriologist at the British Museum.
Right.
Yeah, because I love it, because it really gives us a picture of it. Like they said, like they went to this hotel, and sometimes the water would work, and sometimes electricity would go out, and they have to reset the clock. And so you really get an idea that we take so many things for granted, which we may be going back to that if they keep pushing this.
Well, I tell you what.
Wind, solar power. Where yesterday when Brandon was here. They were out there, and it was a bunch of windmills that weren't working, right? So they had these displays of windmills, and in Broomfield, they were just sitting there not working. So I said, if we're gonna depend on that, it's gonna be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So so anyway, so it was just interesting listening to the stories that was told on these stories, but okay, but like I said, I'm going to put the show out again on our channel. It's going to be a lot more condensed than this, but so you guys got to see the long version. But when you go to the television station, you will probably see the more condensed version. So hang on to this one, and we'll share this one with Rumble and all those other guys. So hey, Randall, thank you for Robert. I'm sorry. I don't keep
Robert Randall, ladies and gentlemen.
I keep on calling you Randall.
Two first names. I know. It can get very confusing.
Two first names. There we go. Robert Randall, ladies and gentlemen. You can find him on Spotify. Hit up the podcast and things like that.
Give those again.
Yeah, sure. So basically, you can find me on a bunch of different platforms. I'm on BandLab at Robert Randall Music. I'm on Soundtrap at Robert Randall Music. I am on Loom, L-U-M, the Loom app, which is that's
a new one.
That's a very cool.
It's
basically every social media platform rolled into an app for musicians, and you can even make some money doing beats and mixing and mastering and all sorts of things, and create your own fan base and grow and get paid in cryptocurrency.
All right.
And then I'm on all the podcast platforms except for Amazon, and you can also hear me again on Friday at 5:30 on this station.
Yeah.
Friday at 5:30.
Yes.
All
and
right.
then twice a day on Hibernation Radio at hibernationonline.com at 5:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. and that's Pacific time.
Pacific.
All right. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll have a upcoming show because I got some stuff we want to cover tomorrow night. And thank you everybody for joining us. God bless.